Hello once again. Now you might be wondering how I got up this cliff when you can't climb back up after jumping down. Don't worry about that. The reason I'm up here is because there was a hidden item up here that I missed the first time. I have no idea how anybody was supposed to find this without the item that lets you find hidden items, and once you find that item, you basically have no reason to come back up here anyways, so I don't get it. And after that, I went back to capture an Abra. As you can see, Oddish is now fast enough to put this thing to sleep before it can teleport away. Rather, it can put the level 8 Abra to sleep. It's not fast enough for the level 10 Abra, so I'm just barely able to capture this the easy way. All status effects make it easier to capture Pokemon, but sleep actually gives you the most benefit in that regard, so use sleep whenever you can. Which is weird because Abra is basically a sleeping Pokemon anyways, it's just barely conscious enough to teleport away from you. In fact, I was so angry at this Pokemon that I decided to capture another one. Why did I do that? There must be a reason for it. Well, we'll see. Be patient. Who am I kidding? Everyone knows that already anyways. So, after seeing Bill, this house opens up and it seems the unlucky NPC inside has had his home ransacked by somebody who happens to be standing in the backyard. I don't know, I think he'd want to get away from the crime scene. But yeah, this is the first time we've seen Team Rocket doing something objectively evil. Stealing somebody's property is not exactly a good guy thing to do. So if the perpetrator was in the backyard, why wasn't that police officer in front of the house doing anything to stop him? Why does it fall to us? I suppose there's some kind of commentary in there, but I don't want to get into that right now. So as you can see, putting enemies to sleep is a very effective battle technique. It renders them incapable of doing anything, and because this is Generation 1, sleep is actually kind of crazy because the turn you wake up from sleep, you can't do anything, but you can also be put to sleep again if the enemy has chosen a move that puts you to sleep. Which means if the enemy is faster than you, they can just keep you in a total state of slumber permanently just by selecting a sleep move over and over again. Of course, they have to stop doing that in order to actually attack, but the enemy AI in this game actually knows what you're going to do before they have selected a move. So they'll know when they're able to attack or when they need to use a sleep move again. Of course, enemy AI seems to be completely random in what move they actually choose, so it's not exactly that big a deal in this game. However, it is noteworthy that sleep was apparently such a broken tactic that in the Stadium games, they included a rule where you cannot put more than one enemy to sleep at a time, which is very interesting. Anyways, you didn't need to see that fight, it was just me sleeping while my enemy burned alive. It's kinda dark if you think about it. Anyways, beating that Rocket makes him return the item he stole. I don't know why he doesn't just get away, but it is TM28, a TM that teaches dig, and according to this NPC, he was going to use it to teach a Diglett how to dig. And now he's just going to do it without the TM. Does this guy know that Diglett learns how to dig naturally? Like, why do you need a technical machine to do that? I don't know, some of the writing in this game is a little wonky, but we're on a new route, which means there are new Pokemon to find. Well, sort of new. We've already seen Mankey, but now it's time for Red to capture one of her own. I mean, you can only get this in the red and yellow versions of the game. It doesn't show up in blue version, or Japanese blue, if I remember right. So Red has one now. That's important for Pokédex completion, because you kind of need all of them if you want to complete the Pokédex. Speaking of which, there is a Pokemon that only appears here in the blue version of the game, so Blue now has to capture a Meowth. Meowth is a Pokemon that can generate infinite amounts of money with one of the moves it learns. It literally has a move that generates money, which kind of makes me wonder how Team Rocket is always broke when they literally have a Pokemon that can generate as much money as they want and make them rich. But then again, it took them a while to even realize that Meowth was a Pokemon to begin with, so, I don't know. Kinda says something about their intelligence. Anyway, I wonder if the others are catching any Pokemon. Let's check in with Green. Green seems to be catching his own Abra. Okay, and you're just gonna toss the ball and hope for luck. And you've got it. Green now has an Abra. How lucky. No idea what he's going to do with it. I don't really see what use a teleporter is going to do. I mean, you can escape any battle you want, assuming you go first. And he's unlucky enough to, well, he's actually lucky again because he ran into another Abra, but I doubt he's going to catch this one. He only needs one, right? No, he's going to go for it. Okay. We'll see if this works out. I don't know why you need another one. Oops, never mind. Well, there you go. So, what's he gonna do next? Saving the game. I guess that's a good thing. He did get very lucky. And, isn't that trainer supposed to see you from that distance? Well, I guess if he's gonna teleport somewhere, he might as well. He appears to be taunting the NPC. I don't really understand what's going on with that. Let's move on to Yellow. Ah yes, Yellow has found a hidden elixir in this exact spot. I have no idea how anyone was supposed to find that either. There is no way you would just check that random wall. Also, in one of the battles, Pikachu got poisoned, and that actually triggers a unique response from him, so I decided to show footage of it. Yeah, I gotta say, those voice clips, they do get kinda spooky at times. Anyways, you can't go through the building to the south quite yet, so we're gonna take this underground passage. And this NPC is also the first to offer Blue a trade. There was another trade offer in Cerulean City, but I think it's exclusive to Red. I'm not sure. The Japanese Blue version has different trades than the Red, Blue, and Yellow versions, so I was a little confused there. I wish I had caught a Rattata earlier, because having a Poliwag at this point in the game is actually a pretty good deal. Also, there's a hidden full restore there, and there's going to be a hidden X special here as well. No idea how you were supposed to find these either. Anyways, trading is something we're going to be doing a lot of in this episode, actually, so look out for that. And as we enter this route, it's actually noteworthy that Yellow version changed some of the NPCs in this route. I don't fight any of the trainers that were changed, but the changed trainers include a girl with a Cubone, a boy with a Weepin' Bell, and another boy with a Sandshrew, which are all references to anime-only characters, which is pretty nice, but it's very subtle, and I doubt anyone would have caught that unless they were really paying attention, or maybe watching those episodes recently. I'm just capturing this Pidgeotto, by the way, so I don't have to raise Pidgey to level whatever it evolves at. I think this Pidgeotto can actually be caught at a level earlier than when it's supposed to evolve, which is really weird. Sometimes that can happen. It pays to have some decently leveled Pokemon, and while I may be restricting myself to Pokemon that Ash used, I'm going to play a little bit smarter than he would. A lot smarter, in fact, as you'll see, but enough jabs at the main character of the show. You know, I hear he's gotten a little bit better at Pokemon training. A little bit better. Not enough for me to admit he has a brain, but yeah, it's worth noting at least. So these two trainers are unavoidable. They don't really have anything of interest. This girl here just has 3 Pidgeys. I mean, these guys should really be holding like 6 Pokemon. What are they doing? Are they just capturing stuff and then not using 6 Pokemon at all times? But their levels are pretty decent at least. One wonders if they would have caught a Pidgeotto on this route or something like that. But whatever. It's nothing but 3 Pidgeys for this trainer, so let's just move on to whatever Red is doing. Red has defeated the second of the mandatory trainers. He just had Eradicate. It really wasn't that interesting. And we have moved on to Vermilion City, which has quite a number of interesting things going on in it. First up is the Fishing Guru, who gives you a fishing rod for free. It is the old rod, which is the worst fishing rod in the game, so I have a feeling he just offloaded his junk onto me. Anyways, the old rod lets you fish, but it only lets you catch Magikarp, which I already bought way back at the beginning of the game. Well, close to the beginning anyways. So it's really not worth all that much. And you might wonder why I didn't just save the money and get the old rod and capture a Magikarp that way. You can at least get it earlier if you buy it. You could start leveling it then and there. And here we have an NPC that we are going to actually trade with. This is the reason I caught the extra Spearow, so I could trade for a Farfetch'd. Like the name might imply, Farfetch'd is kind of a joke Pokemon. It doesn't really learn anything special compared to Spearow, besides like one move that can boost its stats really well. But this is the only Farfetch'd you can get in Red version, so I might as well trade for it. It's not that hard to get. Besides, there are other uses for it besides battle, which we will be seeing in this episode. And just so we're clear, I'm not talking about roasting it and eating it. What am I, a cannibal? I mean, gee, I can only imagine what would happen if certain video game characters were in this game, constantly asking, how does it taste? And stuff like that. Regardless, Red now has a Farfetch'd, and that's one extra slot in the Pokédex filled, so good on us. Now, let's see what Yellow is up to next. I have a feeling we should check in with him. Let's see here. Yellow has arrived in Vermilion City and is heading into one of the buildings. Ah yes, he is headed for the Pokemon Fan Club, which is where people hang out and talk about Pokemon. Based on their dialogue, I would say they are a little bit too, infatuated with their Pokemon, I want to say. And so is Pikachu, for that matter. He seems to be really into this Clefairy. Why wasn't he into any of the Clefairy back on Mount Moon? Because we ran into a couple back then. Yes, the tail of Clefairy is very adorable. And as for the president of this fan club, you know, these guys, I don't know what's up with them. They have these huge Pokemon collections and they do nothing with them. But you have to listen to him brag about his Rapidash, and I think the dialogue is meant to imply that he just drones on, and it gets kind of a little interesting. But after hearing him out, well, he was gonna give me an item, but unfortunately my inventory was full. That's the thing about Generation 1. It's the only, well, it's not the only game in the series with an inventory limit, but I would say it's the most restrictive inventory limit, and I have to listen to the guy talk again, so let's move on. Red appears to have headed east out of Vermilion City and has captured a Drowsy, which is a Pokemon based on a Baku, which is a Japanese yokai. The Dream Eater, to be precise. Very famous yokai. Come to think of it, Meowth was also based on a yokai, those little cat statues with the coins. Come to think of it, Toho got a character based on that same yokai recently. Anyways, this route ends in a blockade, so we can't really explore too much, but there are quite a lot of trainers around if you want to fight them and get some EXP. Plenty of them to work with, and if you approach this tree, well, I got an encounter on the last grass tile, go figure, but you can also find an escape rope in this tree. I don't want to think about why there's an escape rope in this tree, just remember that this is a kid's game, it is a family adventure, and you should not be thinking about what it means when you find ropes in trees. Yes. Just don't think about it as I run away from this Drowsy. I already have one, I don't need another, there's no trades involving a Drowsy. Just don't think about the escape rope that was likely hanging from the tree. And let's explore this cave next. This is Diglett's cave, so named because apparently a bunch of Diglett dug it. And naturally, there's going to be a bunch of Diglett in here, and that means we can capture one. So of course Red is going to capture one. Here it is. The most creative Pokemon in the entire game, more so than Voltorb, am I right? Actually, I dig on Diglett a lot, but it's, you know, it's fine. It's supposed to be a mole, but the weird thing is you never see what exactly is under the earth. You never see Diglett's whole body, so there's been all kinds of speculation as to what Diglett's body actually looks like, and you can't really see it even when it's coming out of the Pokeball in the later games anyways, because for some reason when it comes out of the Pokeball, it's already burrowed into the earth. Even if you're not in a place with dirt in it, like a building or something, or the open seas. It doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I took the time to do some extra training for Oddish because it was very close to level 21, which is when it gets its first evolution into the invincible and immortal, really gross-looking flower thing, also known as Gloom. Maybe I should backpedal on that evolution, but never mind that. We are now on the other side of the tunnel, which is actually going to lead us to the area just off to the side of Viridian Forest. Well, that's a nice shortcut back to the beginning if you want to go that route. Of course, there is a bit of shrubbery blocking the way. We'll have to deal with that at some point. I actually wanted to get a bunch of items from here, but I didn't realize that you would need something in order to get past the shrubbery, so we can't do a whole lot quite yet. And I thought there was another item I could get at this point, but in reality, it was actually the second in-game trade that I'm going to do today. You can trade an Abra for a Mr. Mime. Yes, Mr. Mime. I know there are female Mr. Mimes later on in the games because gender didn't become a thing until Generation 2, so they went with Mr. Mime thinking that it would be totally safe and assuming that all mimes are male wouldn't cause any issues in the future. Ah, that's so funny to think about it that way. So something that's unfortunate about the in-game trades is that you always receive a Pokemon the same level as the Pokemon you traded away, which I think was done to ensure that you at least get something if you, like, trade away a level 60 Abra or something. But of course the problem is, as I've mentioned before, training a level 5, level 6 Pokemon this late in the game, it's kind of a bit of a difficult thing to do, so I don't know if I'm going to use Mr. Mime at all. Mr. Mime's got a couple of things it can do. He's mostly centered around creating barriers and stuff, which is interesting to find this early in the game, but even with the EXP boost that traded Pokemon have, I don't know that I'll be able to do much with him. We'll see. Now, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum is this level 29 Dugtrio that I'm fighting. You might be wondering why I'm fighting it and showing you all. That's because I'm going to capture this thing. You can capture a Dugtrio at level 29 in Diglett's Cave, and this is the most broken thing in the world. Dugtrio is a very good Pokemon. Lots and lots of speed, lots and lots of attack power, some of the best moves are available to it. It's a really great Pokemon to find this early in the game, and they just let you capture it. All you have to do is get just a little bit lucky, put it to sleep, maybe damage it a little bit, and then maybe toss your Great Ball that you found, and you can get it this early in the game. Level 30 is really high. Like, most trainers are around level 20 at this point. And I got unlucky with the Great Ball, so I'm gonna try again with the Pokeball. I've got 9 of these left. I think I can get lucky in the next couple of throws, or I could just capture it outright. That's good. And this adds it to the Pokédex as well, so I don't have to raise a Diglett of my own. Oh, but Red's not going to be the one actually using Dugtrio, so let's check out what Blue's up to. Now, I have to apologize for the grayscale and the lack of Super Game Boy borders, but apparently it's the year 2022, soon to be 2023 of course, and we still do not have a modern emulator capable of handling Game Boy link cable functions. What do you know? So I had to switch emulators. It's only going to be for the duration of 2 trades, and I hope you can bear with it as we swap the Diglett and Dugtrio into Blue's party, in exchange for the Sandshrew and Meowth he caught. While that takes place, there's not a whole lot going on, so not much to talk about, so I guess I will talk about a common joke that the fandom makes from time to time, and that's basically the fact that we commit animal abuse in these games fairly often. Capturing Pokemon, and then bartering with them, and battling with them, and all that stuff. It's not something you would do with animals in real life. At least you wouldn't do it so long as you were kind enough to think of your animals as living beings with their own thoughts and feelings. We might not communicate with them the same way they communicate with us, but they do communicate. That much is evident. And it's also evident that the Pokemon people would like us to think of Pokemon in the same way. After all, they still insist that this is family entertainment for children despite all the crazy stuff that goes on in the series. And there have been times, such as the 4th and 5th generations, where they do try to address all this stuff, but at the end of the day, this is fiction, and I didn't really have any deep thoughts on this subject. I just wanted to fill dead air because nothing is happening while the trade is going on. Sorry. So while that's going on, Green appears to be fighting a Slowpoke, and doing nothing but growling even as Slowpoke continues to inflict confusion upon Ivysaur. Yeah, I got no idea what's going on there. No idea at all. I suppose we'll have to check back in with Green later to see if his meds are working. Let's move on to the next actual dungeon. Well, quote-unquote dungeon. This is really more of an area with trainers in it. You can only get onto the St. Anne with the SS ticket, or is it the Saint ticket, or is it just SS Anne? I really don't know, but you can see that the SS Anne is a ship, and there are a lot of hidden items and trainers to fight in this area, mainly sailors with water Pokemon, so if you've got yourself an Ivysaur, this will be where he actually comes in handy, except some of the water Pokemon are also part poison types, so it doesn't help out as much as you'd probably like. Anyways, what's annoying about this place is that there are some rare items here, including a couple of TMs, and after you complete your objective on this ship, then the ship sets sail and you can't come in here anymore. At least you can't come in here the conventional way. Of course, there are ways back onto the boat even after it has set sail, which is probably a little bit strange, but no matter. Anyways, it's mostly water Pokemon like we saw with Misty. We'll be able to capture all of this eventually, of course, but I guess consider this a preview of how useful they are. Which is not much at all. Balance in Generation 1 was really not that good. There's a lot of Pokemon that just don't stack up. Anyways, this is TM44. It teaches your Pokemon how to take a nap. The rest move will give you the sleep status and recover all of your health. And that also erases your status effect as well because it gets replaced with sleep. And here is a hidden hyper potion in this bed way at the end of this corridor. I have no idea why it's there. I have no idea why the hyper potion is hidden and the max potion is not, but I don't make this game. And we have the other TM. TM08 is Body Slam. It is a normal type move that inflicts paralysis, and there's a lot of funny stuff going on with that move. So the electric type Thunder Wave can't paralyze any electric Pokemon, right? Makes sense? Well, the normal type Body Slam can paralyze electric Pokemon, but it can't paralyze normal Pokemon. Generation 1, am I right? It's so strange. Just when you think you know Generation 1, something weird pops up yet again to mess with you. And I don't even think this whole status effect thing is necessarily a bad thing. Also, there's another Great Ball in this trash can, but I had to empty my inventory again because inventory limits. And at the end of the ship is a fight with the rival again. So he claims to have caught 40 kinds of Pokemon, and if you capture and evolve as many Pokemon as you can, you actually can have that many Pokédex entries filled out, maybe twice as much. But he seems to be ahead of Red, and we can't have that, so time to beat him up once again. This rival fight is really not all that interesting compared to the last one. Most of the Pokemon are the same. He leads off with Pidgeotto, which has Sand Attack and Quick Attack as usual. Just burn him up again. And then he's got Raticate, which is the evolved form of Rattata. You've already fought one by this point, but it still has Hyper Fang, so that can be annoying. And he's also got a Kadabra now, the evolved form of Abra, which means Kadabra can use Confusion in addition to Teleport. But since Kadabra randomly likes to just use Teleport instead of Confusion, this isn't that bad, so long as you don't try to use Gloom. I mean, I'm gonna paralyze him here. And do that much at least, but I'm also going to switch off to something else. I was cutting it real close in this fight, by the way. I only had Gloom left. I had to use some of my weaker Pokemon to do the rest of the damage here, just because I had entered this fight with Charmeleon paralyzed from another trainer. Really should have gone back to heal before doing that. And as for Blue, well, he's just trucking along the same as usual. Wartortle is now up to level 29, and we just got a level 29 Dugtrio, so Blue is not going to have any trouble with this whatsoever. He's just going to bite this Kadabra. Of course, it's not going to be super effective because Dark-type hadn't been invented yet, but it's still enough to just waste the guy. And then there's Green. How is he going to handle this? Well, we'll see what his first Pokemon is. It's level 100? How did you get a level 100, whatever that thing is? Level 100? This early in the game? What? What's going on here? Am I the one who's on drugs? Nah, I'm just messing with you. We all know what this is, and I should probably stop pretending that I don't. The glitch that lets you capture a level 100 Mew is probably one of the most famous in the entire Pokemon series. This has been explained to you dozens of times, no doubt, but I will go over it one more time for the sake of nostalgia. To do this glitch, you first have to get an Abra and then use it to teleport away from that trainer like Green did earlier in the video. After doing that, your buttons are disabled and you have to find a way to fight a trainer in order to get your buttons back. And the special stat of the last Pokemon that you fought will determine the species of the Pokemon that appears when you re-enter the area where you escaped from the first trainer. So by battling the youngster with a Slowpoke on Route 25, you can make a Mew appear on Route 24. Now that doesn't explain the level. So what's going on there is, if you growl at the enemy Pokemon that you're fighting, it will modify the level of the Pokemon that you encounter later on in the glitch. So by growling 6 times, I took the enemy Pokemon from level 7 to level 1, and at level 1, you can take advantage of a glitch in the experience calculation system by gaining a small amount of experience and then jumping from level 1 all the way to level 100. That will only work with certain Pokemon that have the correct EXP curve. Now, the only downside to this is that jumping from level 1 to level 100 causes you to skip all of the level up moves in between, because this is Generation 1, so there had to be a glitch in the leveling up of all things. If you jump over the level where you would have learned a level up move, you just don't get offered that level up move at all, so we lost all of Mew's level up moves. However, we are level 100, so I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. You can still use TMs, and no other enemy Pokemon in the game is level 100, so you've basically got a free pass to winning everything. So, to make Green's adventure a little more interesting, I will try not to use it in every battle, but we'll see how it goes. And for those of you wondering if this is a Japanese green thing, don't worry, this works in every version of Generation 1. Obviously not in Fire Red or Leaf Green, and definitely not in Let's Go, but they did not manage to find this and fix it in time for Yellow version, so it works in every version of the original Game Boy games, and that's the only way you can get Mew anyways, because Mew is one of those event Pokemon. You had to, like, mail in your cartridge or something to get him. Anyways, moving on to Yellow version, there's not a lot I can say about the Yellow version of this fight. It's basically the same as last time. The rival in Yellow version has Eevee, Sandshrew, Rattata, and Spearow, so not a wholly different team from what we saw last time. He should really be thinking about evolving that Eevee. I don't know what's taken him so long. Anyways, after getting past the rival, we can now see the captain of the ship, who is going to give us a hidden machine, or HM. These are items that, like TMs, can teach your Pokemon new moves, but an HM can be used infinitely. And most annoyingly, HMs are actually required to progress throughout the game because they have a lot of out-of-battle effects, much like Dig, which actually functions as an escape rope. I forgot to tell you that. So HM01 gives us the Cut move, and that allows us to cut through the shrubbery that's blocking our path in a couple of areas. Kind of makes you wonder how the NPCs get past these obstacles if they don't have this HM or any of the moves required to get past these places, but I don't question that kind of thing. What's annoying about HMs is that you are not allowed to delete them from your Pokemon ever. If you learn a new move and want to get rid of your HM because you don't need it anymore, sorry, your Pokemon is stuck with the move permanently, and not all of the HM moves are actually good in battle. It'd be nice if they were, because then this would sting a little bit less, and some of them are, but not all of the moves are good. So it can be annoying to be stuck with them. And it's also kind of an outdated game design thing, because you don't know your first time down where you're going to need those HM moves, so you have to constantly carry around a Pokemon that might not necessarily be trained, but at least it has an HM move and you're using it just for that. The good news is, since you can use that Mew glitch to capture a Mew, Mew can learn any HM or TM in the game, so you can just use him as your HM servant, if you will. And in fact, there are Pokemon that are designed specifically to be HM servants, and when those started popping up, I think it was a sign that they needed to tone down how important HMs were to world navigation. And I could go on and on about HMs, but you've heard all of that already, I bet. So I'm gonna rant about something else instead. The Vermilion City Gym is the first in Generation 1 to have a puzzle you have to get through before you face the gym leader. And by puzzle, I mean roulette on steroids. The idea here is that you have to find 2 switches which are hidden in these trash cans. However, after finding the first switch, you get 1 shot at finding the second switch. Otherwise, both switches reset and you have to find the first switch again. It's really, really awful, and the worst part of it is it's not even programmed properly. So the hints that the NPCs give you doesn't really help out a whole lot. There are visual guides on PokemonSpeedruns.com that are a lot more accurate, and believe me, nobody would figure out that they work this way on their own. So apparently Lieutenant Surge is not only American, but he was also involved in a Pokemon war of some kind. Do they use Pokemon as weapons in war? I'd believe it, but that's kind of a lot for a children's game, don't you think? Anyways, Lieutenant Surge reminds me a lot of Guile from Street Fighter, mostly because 2 of his Pokemon know the move Sonic Boom. And Sonic Boom is an interesting move in this game because it always does exactly 20 damage. I mean, Charmeleon here has 73 health, so that's not exactly a powerful move, but at the lower levels, that might actually be pretty threatening, because way back at the beginning of the game, Pokemon barely even got above 20 health. So Lieutenant Surge has 3 Pokemon, Voltorb, Pikachu, and Raichu, and in the red, blue, and green versions, they're really not that much to talk about. They've got electric moves, sometimes they'll paralyze you, whatever. You can use just about anything at your disposal, and you can get through them pretty quickly. Blue in particular just steamrolled this guy. He's got Dugtrio, which is a ground-type Pokemon, and ground types are completely immune to electric attacks, so there's really not a lot Lieutenant Surge can do. Also, Dugtrio knows Dig. It is a 2-turn move. You avoid damage on the first turn, and then you deal damage on the second turn. Normally not that practical, but this is Generation 1, so Dig has as much power as Earthquake, which is a much stronger ground-type move in the other games in the series. And yes, the Dugtrio was traded over from Red version, but you can capture it in any version, so I don't see it as cheating or whatever. What is cheating is what Green is doing right now with his level 100 Mew. I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to win this one. Now, this is actually the first gym leader where Yellow version tries to switch it up to match up with the anime, and in this case that means giving Lieutenant Surge precisely one Pokemon. It is a level 28 Raichu, and if you were thinking of using a Dugtrio or another Ground-type Pokemon to avoid its electric attacks, it now knows Mega Punch, so it can still hit ground types, and for a pretty hefty amount of damage too. I mean, using Dugtrio would probably still work, but I've devised a strategy worthy of Ash Ketchum. You see, Pikachu has learned a move called Double Team, and what it does is it makes your evasiveness goes up so you dodge more attacks. And believe me, this is one of the most broken strategies in any generation of Pokemon. Just use Double Team 6 times, and you basically never get hit. It's really, really broken, especially this early in the game. There are no real moves up to this point that can ignore accuracy checks except for Bide. There's another move that ignores accuracy checks called Swift. It is really not a powerful move. There is Haze, which will get rid of the evasion modifiers, but, you know, in Generation 1, there just weren't a lot of ways to deal with this strategy if you let your opponent set it up. It's such a ridiculous strategy and ruins the game for a lot of people, so most forms of competitive Pokemon actually ban this move along with anything else that modifies accuracy and evasion. There's a temptation there to just say deal with it, but there just aren't a lot of ways to in fact deal with it, especially not in this generation. As far as I know, the strategy is still banned, but I think if you play doubles in the later generations, you don't really have to worry about this kind of thing. But Generation 1 is known for bugs, and there is another one at play that you probably never noticed in all of your years of playing Generation 1. So, collecting certain badges will actually boost your stats in battle. It's really weird, I don't know why they do it, but due to a bug, every time you use a stat modifying move, such as Double Team, or have your stats modified by Sand Attack for example, the game will actually reapply the badge boost and boost your stats even further. At this point in the game, I only have one badge that modifies stats. The Boulder badge will increase my attack power, and that will increase the amount of damage that I do with Slam, so every Double Team is effectively making Slam even stronger because it keeps reapplying that badge boost over and over. And after I get Lieutenant Surge's badge, the same will apply to my Speed stat. Anyways, the battle is over, and now we get another reward for beating Lieutenant Surge. Having the Thunder Badge allows you to get Squirtle, the last of the 3 Kanto starters that are available for free in Pokemon Yellow. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention regarding the starters, you can only get the Bulbasaur from Cerulean City if you have a high enough affinity with Pikachu. That's really the only thing in Pokemon Yellow that your friendship affects, whether or not you get a free Pokemon. How nice. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Next time, more challenges, more Pokemon, more glitches, more trying to make sure I'm holding everyone's attention with Generation 1 of all things. See you later, everybody. Hope you'll keep on watching this weird series of mine.